do things differently. A lot of people are saying things like 10 years worth of progress has been achieved in just a few months. The number of people using Zoom and similar tools, there are many, many tools which I will talk about a little later as well, because it's really important that people start adopting some of these tools, not only in a remote working environment, but the efficiency that some of these tools allow us to achieve is, this is what is happening in the US and other developed markets, and hopefully in South Africa we can start using some of these tools to enhance our efficiency and build better, more efficient businesses. But remote working, though COVID pushed it along really quickly, it's not a new concept. This is something which has been around for a long time. And a while ago, I stumbled on our short article, and was about IBM. And the article says that in 1983, IBM had about 2,000 people working remotely, 1983. And by 2009, over 200,000 IBM employees did not have an office at all. And so remote working is not exactly a new concept. It's just something which has come, I guess, into the public view a lot more clearly. But this is, this has been the way that businesses have worked, and there's a lot of research and there's a lot of work being done on how to do this well. The real funny part is that by 2017, IBM moved everybody back into the office, but that's it's not so easy to manage 200,000 people without an office, I would guess. And so when we started building Sudor, we actually started building pre-COVID, and the remoteness of the employees is actually not related to COVID. It's related to finding like-minded people who believe in the goal, who believe in the why of the business, why we're doing this, the reason that we do it. We want to empower trainers. We want to help people build businesses and build their lives independent of having to work inside a gym. And so, we got together as a group of people that thought that this was a really, really good idea, and we're prepared to do what it takes to build this remote platform. And so the first thing you have to figure out, I guess, is who's going to come along with you on this journey. You have to say, I joined forces with a woman who is the CEO of the business. She lives in London. Her name is Emma Heap. And Emma and I sat down one day, and we had to decide exactly, what kind of people did we want to hire here. And we realized that there's probably two pieces to think about. Simon Sinek, I think, has got a great talk on this, where he talks about trust versus performance. And so you're obviously looking to hire high-performing individuals, but with that goes together trust. And so you have to hire people that you can trust, which is an even more important attribute if you are working remotely. I mean, what does that really mean? I mean, you've got software developers in the Ukraine. How do you know they are doing the work that they're supposed to do? You don't want to turn up 3-4 months later and say, well, can I see what work you've done? Can I see the product? And they say, well, we've only really built the beginning of it, and so sorry, we've wasted a lot of time. And so you've got to just assess, I guess, a few different things. The first is each role that you're hiring for requires a different level of trust, and it's not about seniority at all. It's about the type of the task, I guess. And so if it has a fixed outcome, like a function on a piece of software, or something that is clearly measurable, sales, how many clients did you see today? Excuse me. How many clients did you see today? What revenue did you generate this month? Those things are easily objectively verifiable. And so, trust is something which you can manage. Where the tasks are less measurable, say it's around generating strategy or even in areas like marketing, which are harder to manage, then you obviously need to hire more carefully. And again, there's quite a lot of research that says if you've met somebody face to face at least once, then there's a higher level of trust than not having met them at all face to face. And if you have met them more than once, the trust can be even higher. And so when you're hiring people that you have never met remotely ever, I beg your pardon, in person ever, it's quite hard to build that trust and that rapport. And so, what we did was we basically, obviously we tested for skill and this sort of thing first. And if we thought the engineers were skilled, we said, okay, why don't we start a trial with you? And we basically put the guy on a 1-month contract to start, and he built some features for us, and we saw how he worked as to whether he was capable of managing in a remote environment or not. And as often as we were successful in hiring people that could work in remote environments, so we were unsuccessful in hiring a number. And so, we found that in general, younger people were more adaptive to this remote working environment than others. We attempted to hire some very senior software engineers who had never worked remotely before. And, that didn't work out so well. Within, 1 or 2 months, actually, the guys decided that working remotely was too hard. They would rather, wait for a job that was in an office. But having said that, we now have a team of engineers in the Ukraine, all in different cities in the Ukraine. They don't sit in an office together. They all sit at home in their own homes. And they have built a very big machine for us without ever having met us. And this isn't some kind of outsourced software development. These are our employees. These are our team. And so, the important thing here is to be able to keep in contact with these guys in the sense of using the digital tools that are available to do daily stand-ups, monthly or weekly demonstrations of the software, and a whole range of things that, excuse me, that allow you to kind of track progress and make sure that things are going in the right direction. Product features and things like this also change quite frequently as you get more customer feedback. Customers say like the integration with Spotify, or they prefer the integration with Apple Music, and so the engineers need to make changes so that you can deliver to customers what they are looking for. And so, building a trust relationship is something which, if not done face-to-face and is done purely remotely, takes a little time, but it absolutely can be done. We have a phenomenal team that, after having gone through a few engineers that didn't work out, we have a team that has proven themselves to be completely able to work in a remote environment, to work in a flexible way, to have literally a daily stand-up, a daily meeting that will take place on say Zoom, and to work with tools that like Gel and Jira and these sorts of digital tools, Slack. The engineers really like Slack as a communication tool. You can't WhatsApp an engineer or email them. You just won't get a response back. But if you send them a message on a messaging platform called Slack, they will answer you back in 10 seconds, literally. So it's also about finding the tools that the teams like to work in, that are conducive to this type of environment. And that really allows you to make sure that although you can't manage and monitor your team super closely, you're able to make sure the work gets done and ultimately the product gets shipped out to customers. And that, I guess, just brings me to one more point, because I know I have been speaking about tracking and making sure that the employees are doing what they're supposed to do. But this environment also lends itself quite well to what I consider a relatively modern management technique, which is actually treating your employees as adults. I know it sounds a little odd, but making them more responsible for the outcome of their work, their output, is something which we find also builds trust. And again, you need to make sure that you have the right individuals. If you are working with people that do need to be micromanaged, perhaps they aren't well suited to this type of environment. But we found that by treating employees as adults, we get a far better result because the team own their work. It's not a command and control type environment. It's an environment where, we're collaborating. This is about, using the tools to help collaborate rather than to command and control. Now I guess that might be a spot to see if there are any questions.
Mark, there is one question here that's come up in the chat box that's asking, question from Ben: how do you build a strong company culture remotely in this type of business?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And again, I think I quoted Simon Sinek a little earlier. If any of you haven't read his book, Start With Why, I highly recommend that as one of my favorite books. You have to start with a why. What does that mean? It means that you have to have a purpose. You have to have a purpose in your business. If your purpose is purely making money, it's quite difficult to build a decent culture, no matter what. Actually, building a culture in a physical world, in a remote world, starts at the same point. It's having a purpose in your organization, in my view. And it's not just words. I mean, lots of organizations that I work with are on the outside very purpose driven. We have this purpose, and we want to serve the customer in this very special way, and we want to help the customer in this way. But internally, they don't live those values. And so it's really important that the why, that the reason that you start your business, and that people come together for that why. It was what I was saying, earlier, when you're finding people that are passionate about what you're doing, people that buy into your vision, people that buy into your why. This is an important starting point, because you will find that a culture that starts with a why is actually a far stronger culture. And the example that Simon Sinek gives many, but one of the ones that is probably the easiest to explain is, when you build a strong culture, it goes beyond your organization, and the people that buy into your why are your customers as well. And so this culture thing is not actually only about employees, and I'll get onto a separate point about emotional safety and culture in a second. But Simon Sinek speaks quite a lot about he takes Harley Davidson as an example. He says, how come people are prepared to tattoo Harley Davidson onto their body, but they don't even have a Harley Davidson bike? Like, what is that about? What's so strong about their purpose, about that brand, that makes people be prepared to do that? And his conclusion is that Harley Davidson have a very strong why. They stand for freedom. They stand for wind in the hair type freedom, and ability to break away from the mundane. And so people sometimes use those symbols to indicate their buy-in to that culture, that brand, in that way. And so I think start with a strong why is a really important thing. The second thing is emotional safety, and again, it's not any different from the real world. There's a lot of research. In fact, Google have done quite a lot of internal research around this, and looked at what are the strongest performing teams inside Google. And the answer has come out many times. It's the teams where the employees feel emotionally safe. Now, what does this actually mean? It's not about can you act out, can you be a prima donna? It's actually quite the reverse. It's that the employees feel, the team feel safe to make mistakes, that they won't be chastised, that they won't be belittled, that they won't be demoted, that their prospects won't be diminished. Because if you aren't making mistakes, then you aren't trying hard enough, you aren't pushing far enough, And so the best performing teams are where people feel that they can make mistakes. I mean, if you keep making the same mistake over and over, you have a different problem. But the best performing teams are teams where it's okay to make mistakes, and you basically grow together as an organization where, based on those mistakes, you learn from them and make sure that you don't repeat those mistakes. But people need to feel safe to make those mistakes and to talk about those mistakes, because otherwise, if your employees are sweeping mistakes under the carpet and you discover them, several months later, then they actually normally become quite big problems. But what you're looking to do is create that environment where you share a common purpose, you're all pulling for the same purpose, and people feel emotionally safe in doing that. And now, so I don't think what you're trying to do is too different in the remote working environment and the physical working environment. And so that is less about this emotional safety thing is less about the employees, than about the leaders. If the leaders are creating an environment where people feel safe, then they will be able to. Then employees will respond accordingly. And anybody that abuses the system, I mean, they obviously can't stay in the system.
Thanks, Marc. I've got another question here. How do you go about sourcing remote employees to build a remote team? Is there any specific platform you use?
So I think that it obviously depends on the role that you're looking for. So software developers are let me start in a different place. The first thing you would always do is go into your network. And again, it's not very different to the physical world, but instead of phoning your friends that live in in Fresno or in Johannesburg, you are going on to LinkedIn and finding your friends all over the world and saying, do you happen to know somebody who can do this very specific task, or somebody that you've worked with before that you can recommend? Because obviously recommendations are a good starting point. And so the difference, I guess, is that you're using some of the tools like LinkedIn that you've built. If you are lucky enough to have built a network over time, then LinkedIn is a very, very good tool. I probably don't use LinkedIn the way it was intended, which is to find the person that you're looking for yourself online, but rather to be able to connect with people that in my LinkedIn are only people that I've met physically. And I know that sounds exactly what you're not supposed to do, but it makes it a trusted network for me in a funny way. And so when I ping somebody in my LinkedIn network, I actually know that person personally, and can rely on their input. And so the first is you'd look for recommendations, and again, it doesn't really matter where the people are. I don't know, a lot of guys here might have booked an air ticket on a website, Travel Start. Travel Start is a business that I work with a lot. They have teams in their app development team is in Taiwan. Their data team is in Greece. The head office is in Cape Town. It's technically a Swedish company. This is not new. Basically, this is hiring people remotely is not new. It's just done slightly differently. You reach wider. You try to build a slight rapport with people in a quickly. I mean, and we used 1 month contracts to month contracts to start to see if the employees worked for us or didn't. There is obviously, you do need to be quite careful about the way you do it, because things like employee tax, if you have people all over the world, figuring out employee tax all over the world can be tricky, but there are quite smart ways to not have to engage in that exercise, which I think is quite important, particularly for a smaller business. And we've successfully been able to navigate that. We don't really want to figure out how to pay employee tax in the Ukraine. It's not time well spent. And so you start with your network and you go from there. Software developers, there are a lot of different online platforms, And, the funny thing about that is that a lot of, I don't know, let's say you're in marketing, you may put a CV on the internet. Software developers actually attach a link to their GitHub account. GitHub is somewhere where you store your software code. And so they have a very practical way of showing you their skill. If you're hiring, you obviously need to know how to hire software developers, but when you go into their CV, it's got a link to their GitHub account, and you can go and look at the code they've written. And so it's a little different, but it's very effective.
Another question's just popped in. I don't know if you want to deal with it now or just now. You have spoken about the ways it has worked, but what have been the greatest challenges you have experienced building Sudo?
Okay, I mean, there are a lot of challenges. I think I see Elle's question there. She's right. I think that I kind of did gloss over that. Oh, you just use these digital tools and it all works so smoothly. But I think that it takes a lot of effort. It takes effort to make sure that you're communicating continuously, that you are either keeping aligned on changes that you need to make. And in young businesses, the changes come thick and fast every day. There's every day there are changes that you're making to strategy. This partnership worked, this partnership didn't. Let's speak to this business to try and work with them on distribution. We need to hire a new engineer. It's very fast-paced stuff, and the thing is that in smaller businesses, everybody multitasks. You can't have clearly defined roles, although like you work in Anglo-American, that you just do this little small role, or you work at Google and you just write software code for this one application. Everybody does a bit of everything. And so you have to make sure that you are really good at communicating. And that's done in a number of ways. The one is to have fixed times to meet digitally or virtually every day for some things, and once a week for other things, and once every 2 weeks for yet other things. But it's literally putting time in diaries that, at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, it's a discussion about customer acquisition. And at 3 o'clock on a Friday, it's the stand up with the engineers where they demonstrate what features they've built in the past week. And so we found that basically communication, you have to work really hard at communication, and we have got it wrong from time to time. That includes pitching outside investors. You kind of, this is done virtually as well. Historically, you might have met the investors. Now you don't even get to meet them. I mean, the VCs are absolutely investing without having met the team, which is interesting. But there's been no slowdown really in VC investing per se. And so I would say that one of the biggest challenges is communication. We also found, I guess, one of the things is when you talk about communication language, we did one particular failure. I mean, we hired somebody whose English, frankly, just wasn't strong enough. His Ukrainian was very good, but his English just wasn't strong enough. And we struggled to communicate what we wanted. He struggled to understand what we wanted him to do. And so we didn't have a great experience in that regard. And so I guess communication is I think the most difficult thing in this remote thing, because there is no water cooler, there's no place to go and share a cup of coffee just quickly and say, what about this? But you do find tools like Slack where it's like a flow of consciousness kind of a communication tool where you can create groups, and we use Slack where we have probably 20 or 25 groups around specific topics. It can be around the iOS app or the Android app, or it can be around a particular partnership, or it can just be two people that form a group so that they can quickly communicate with each other. But it's all people are posting all the time. The team are posting interesting articles that they've read, something that may be applicable. It becomes this is a more sophisticated WhatsApp, but it's also almost a slicker WhatsApp. It's easier to use and create a lot of groups in one place. I highly recommend if anybody is, Slack has actually become quite a big business. It's a listed company now on the NASDAQ. And so anybody looking for an internal communication tool, I highly recommend they have a look at Slack. If you only have 1 or 2 employees, probably it's not that useful to you, but as your team builds, then it becomes a very, very useful tool. So I guess that's the one challenge. I guess the little bit, not so much about remote, but about COVID per se, this leap forward technologically. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about Pseudo itself here, because this is maybe a good moment. When we looked around at the fitness world, when we were thinking about building a business in this area, we saw an example. We saw, I don't know, maybe some of you or some of your children might have used an app. It's called Sweat. Actually, it's put up by an Australian woman named Kayla Itzines or Itzines, and it's a workout app where she does workouts and people follow them all over the world. And last year she did about $100 million in workout sales, so revenue, which for a single person in Australia selling workouts all over the world, I think she's even in Brisbane, not even in Sydney or Melbourne, but you can really build a material fitness business from a small corner of the earth. And we looked at this and we said, why can't we allow any trainer to become a mini Kayla? Why can't we build a platform where any trainer can go onto the internet basically and generate revenue from all over the world with their intellectual property, their personality, their workouts, all of these sorts of things. And finally, we actually took ourselves off to a conference in London where there were, it was a conference for personal trainers actually. And we interviewed tens and tens of personal trainers to figure out exactly, what they did like and what they didn't like, and how worried they were about people stealing their clients. And, they're on a platform where people steal their clients. And like every, possible concern that we could find, we kind of built into what we were doing. But the reason I raised the Kayla example is that, one, she had a successful business, but her app worked in a very particular way. It was what we call movement-based. So it would do, I'm just going to say, well, a bicep curl, and then you would click the button and it would go on to doing push-ups, and you click the button and it would go on to doing squats or whatever. But it was a very particular kind of look and feel. And obviously people were buying this type of product. And then comes along COVID, and people discover things like Peloton. The production value in Peloton's videos is, Peloton have raised billions of dollars, literally. And so I think that they are now worth $18 billion. And that was a couple of days ago. I think they had spectacular results yesterday. And so you'll probably find they're worth even more than $18 billion today. But their production value of their videos, they really, really put on an amazing show. And what happened was that people stopped being impressed by what Kayla was doing, and they started being impressed by what Peloton were doing. And so, we had started off on a course towards where Kayla is and that level of production value, and we quite quickly had to pivot. And pivoting in a virtual environment on a strategic point is actually not so easy. But we moved across to doing what we now call long form videos. So Peloton style workouts. You can, there's many reasons you would still want a Kayla style workout, particularly if you had bandwidth challenges or you were working out in a gym where, a long form workout is not that useful. But if you're working out at home, these long form workouts are now the standard. And so we had to quite quickly shift and start using a completely different type of video. And I guess, the team felt quite a bit of stress. There wasn't a place where we could come and whiteboard this together. Everybody had to remotely deal with their own emotions while we adjusted the business to fit this new reality the customer's expectation, now that Peloton had become a truly mainstream business. And so I guess those are some of the challenges: is communication. Doing strategic shifts remotely is way more challenging than doing it if you're all in the same place. Yeah, I guess those are some of the challenges.
Okay, there are no more questions at this stage in the chat box. Is there anything else from your side that you want to share with us?
I don't know. I guess maybe some thought that occurred to me around. I guess this goes to company culture as well. It's slightly less about the emotional safety that I was referring to, and maybe something else. These tough environments sometimes make you do things differently. They make you maybe be a bit more frugal in the way that you spend your money, or a bit more careful, measure twice and cut once kind of thing, because you're not sure what's going to be around the next corner. You're a bit more cautious. And I think that building this into a company culture from the start is not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's something that is probably going to be a remnant of businesses that were started in this era. Is they're going to have a culture of frugality. There's going to be less WeWork and private jets for no reason, and more considered spending of cash. I think you're going to find that businesses born in this era are going to be more like Depression era businesses, where things are just done slightly more carefully and a little less frivolously, and that's probably not a bad thing to have inbuilt into the company culture from day one as well. You obviously you don't want employees to feel like there are absolutely no benefits of working in your business, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need sushi for lunch for everybody every day as a benefit. In a funny way, we find, not to rely too heavily on software developers example, but you can actually, they consider it a perk to be able to work at home versus in an office, and will quite frankly accept less money to work with you if you allow them to work at home.
So interesting. Just out of interest, in terms of your vision for Sudor, I know now it's more or less focused in the fitness health space. Do you see it growing into other areas of other industries, in a global way?
Sure. I mean, I haven't really spoken a lot about how Sudor works, but basically Sudor is a platform in the sense that we don't own the fitness content on the platform. It's more like YouTube, in a sense that the creators of the content, the trainers, they own their own intellectual property, and they decide what the workout should look like and what should go up on the platform and what shouldn't. And so we don't really control that. We aren't a content company. We are a technology platform, kind of like Uber doesn't own the taxis and Airbnb doesn't own the apartments. We are similar. I think at this point I should probably advertise the reason that I'm on this show, Lisa, is because of a common somebody that we have in common, Alan Amber. Alan is a well-known personality in Cape Town, but he's also a yoga teacher, and Alan has workouts up on Sudor and is doing incredibly well for charity. Actually, he is charging for his workouts, which are world class, and charities are benefiting as a result. And so there are all sorts of different people that are putting workouts up on the platform that are doing it for different reasons. Some are doing it to supplement their income. And some of the trainers are even when the gyms go back, this is going to be probably 15, 20, 30% of their income is going to come out of this platform. And so it becomes a very meaningful piece of their life. In others, they are fortunate enough to be able to donate the proceeds to charity, and I would encourage you all to do Alan's class if you are yoga orientated. And so because we don't own content, we're able to go wider. We were recently approached by some world famous musicians who said that they had been building content around teaching people to play the saxophone and the guitar and drums and things like this, world-class jazz musicians who are brands in their own right. And we are going to open the platform to them as well. The way it's built is that, you know, if you pay for and subscribe to how to play guitar videos, when you log in, all you'll see is how to play guitar videos. You won't see Alan's yoga videos when you want to learn how to play a guitar. And so we are opening the platform up a bit, although our business model is fitness orientated. We recognize that we have built a very powerful tool. You know, it's almost a business in a box for trainers or musicians, where they don't have to worry about the technology, how to receive a payment. Do they want to offer their subscribers a discount in the first month? How do they make that happen? How do they collect the money? You know, all of these things are taken care of by the platform. It's not just about, you know, a place to store your videos. This is somewhere where the creator puts their videos up and they use the platform to charge. And interestingly, you know, because we consider ourselves just the technology piece, and the trainer is really contracting directly with their customers still, we don't actually touch the customer's money when done correctly. The customer, through our system, pays the trainer directly without us having to get involved.
And
So,
another question that sorry, do you want to finish?
It can even go up to extra lesson teaching if people want to. But we could do anything that people want to charge for videos. Ultimately, the system can do. But we are focused on fitness now. But if there are ideas, as there was a friend of mine approached on the music, absolutely prepared to look at making the platform available. And I guess that's one last point. We don't actually charge the trainers an upfront fee to be on the platform. It's, again, just like YouTube, you can put your stuff up. We obviously charge for you to be on the platform, but it doesn't cost the trainer anything upfront or the musician anything upfront. They can start for free, basically, which is a really important part, because we're dealing with really small micro businesses. And so you couldn't ask them to pay a fee to be on. You do pay when you get paid, but you don't pay us anything before you get paid by your clients.
And I'm assuming there's some sort of screening process. You're not going to let any trainer be on your platform, or how does it work?
Okay, so you know, much like YouTube, we don't want to be the judge of what's a good workout. We do want to make sure that the trainers are appropriately qualified and these sorts of things. And so there are obviously personal checks that we'll make, but we don't dictate what type of exercise or workout should be done. We aren't the judge of quality. The trainer is ultimately, you know, bringing their own clients in anyway, and so they like what the trainer's doing. It isn't for us to say, you know, you shouldn't do an exercise like that. It's better if you do it like this. That's not what we do. Actually, we're a platform, and the trainers dictate. The trainers own the IP, and so, you know, we can't really dictate to them what they should and shouldn't do. But we do check that they are all appropriately qualified, and that they have the relevant insurance and all of these things. But outside of that, it's up to the trainers and their followers. The platform should ultimately be self-regulating, because you, at the end of the workout, you can rate the workout and you can make a comment and things like that. And so what will ultimately happen is that the good workouts will surface to the top of the platform, and the ones that get poor rankings will ultimately get pushed down to the bottom and won't be seen, because, well, we want to only surface the best workouts for the people on the platform, so that they don't need to see those poor workouts, but it becomes controlled by the community, not by us. You know, just like
unbelievable.
The terrible taxi driver. You rate your taxi driver, and that rating system basically flows through into which taxis they show as the good drivers. The poor ones tend to get off the system.
I've just got 2 questions that have popped into the chat box. Can you speak about how financials are organized?
Okay, so I mean, for us, if you're selling a digital product, it's almost a little unfair in a sense because we don't need to worry about inventory or any of these things. It's super simple. The payment gateway we use two. We use Stripe and Adyen, the same that basically Netflix and Uber and Lyft use. So we're using the heavyweight stuff. But we can extract data from that directly into our Xero accounting package and things like this. So in a way, if you're selling a digital product, it's almost unfair in its simplicity. Again, another bit of luck in Fresno is an accounting firm that specializes in doing accounts for UK companies. And in a weird way, I can walk down to my accountant, literally a block away, and have a meeting about, we realize that every UK-based employee, we need to make a pension contribution. And we realized 1 or 2 months late that we hadn't actually been making these pension contributions. I had to walk down to my accountant in Avenue La Croix and have a quick chat about how to make pension contributions. But so we got lucky. It's you do obviously need a bookkeeper of some nature, somebody to input the costs, but from the revenue side, if you're selling a digital business, it literally feeds itself into the accounts. Accounting packages are online these days. It's not like the old days. I mean, I can see the accounts any day. The dashboards that the payment gateways give you are phenomenal. What we've actually built in the background is that each trainer or musician or whatever has the ability to have their own account, which basically means that they can log into the system and see how much they've earned without us having to show them, and we don't touch their money in most cases, and so it's we only collect what's ours, and so it's super clear what's going on in our accounts. I don't think there's any special way to organize your accounts per se. I mean, accounting is still, you have revenue at the top and how you classify things, whether they're cost of sales or sales, that's really management accounting in a sense, but how much cash you are generating and how much cash you are burning are the real metrics that early stage businesses, I think, are most interested in. And that becomes easily clear in a business like this.
Just out of interest, how many subscribers have the most successful trainer got on Sudor? Just out of one.
Yeah, I think again, it's pretty early days, but I think the most successful trainer is over 500 subscribers. And we do, I mean, there's a couple of price points. We allow premium trainers to set their own price. And so I think that particular trainer is a £30 a month trainer. But the basic app is a £10 a month kind of product. In a way, we see it as democratizing access to some of these trainers. Some of the trainers on the app, actually the guy who is employed as our chief fitness officer just became Boris Johnson's personal trainer, which is quite a funny thing. We have Jenny Ribbett on the platform. Jenny was Princess Diana's trainer, and she specializes in women over 45. We have Alan doing yoga. We have so many different trainers. We're just I don't think anybody on this call is probably a cage fighter, but even down to cage fighting, we have the EFC put up videos on training and things like that. So you can see we're a platform that spreads from yoga to cage fighting to, none of this content is ours. I mean, Sweat 1000 is on the platform. It's, if you are doing those Sweat 1000 online, even if you're doing it in their Instagram channel, you're actually paying on Sudor. And so it's we are not a content business. We're a platform, and all of these guys are leveraging the power of being able to sell in. And again, we obviously can recognize when the client comes on, if they're in the UK, they're going to pay a pound price, and if they're in the US, a dollar price, and euro price, and a rand price. We allow that kind of thing, which is quite important and quite a tricky thing to do. But it allows the trainers to truly have a global business in a box from day one, as long as they put their videos up if the quality is high enough.
Amazing. Maybe just before we close, do you just want to share with the audience how you guys came up with the name Sudor?
Sure. Finding a name these days is mostly about finding a web domain, particularly in the digital world, finding a web domain that you can get. So you spend a bit of time on GoDaddy or a similar service hunting names. But actually, sudor means sweat in Spanish, and we have going to be a really important market for us. It's a fitness orientated market, and so we like the name. It's also a very simple name. It's only a couple of letters and easy to find. I guess it's I think a little bit of an interesting side story, because this everybody says what does sudor mean? Well, it means sweat in Spanish, but what it also means, it took our German first language CTO to tell us that sudor actually means something in English as well. It actually means the sweat that forms on your brow when you sweat, and so it's actually an English word meaning sweat as well, which the English speakers in the team didn't know, but we learned from our German speaking colleague, which is quite a cool anecdote.
Marc, thank you so much. It's really been fascinating just hear you share your insights and the experience around building sudor and creating your remote business. Something that most of us are all trying to grapple with, having a more efficient and effective online presence while navigating the challenges of COVID and the pandemic as we move to our new reality as it is. So honestly, it's really been amazing. So special thanks for your time and just sharing your knowledge with us. To everyone joining us this morning, thank you, and I hope you found the session beneficial. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. So keep safe, look after yourselves, and see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.